I'm gonna take you right back to the beginning of the video game industry for this one, the granddaddy console, the Atari 2600. The Atari 2600 was one of the first major game consoles to release. It came out to competition from Intellivision and ColecoVision. Both those systems had superior graphics and were technically better, but the Atari 2600 still won out. A lot of this had to do with marketing and the controller. The ColecoVision and the Intellivision had strange keyboard-like controls, and the 2600 had a joystick with one button. Another main reason was it was the least expensive of the three. The Atari 2600 had a lot of arcade ports that sold very well and brought Atari much love from the gaming audience. Everybody wanted to play Space Invaders in their homes. The lifespan for the console was huge. It was sold in stores from 1977 to 1992. There are 470 games in the Atari 2600 library, but only 10 can be chosen for the official top 10. So here are the official top 10 Atari 2600 games. Number 10. Junior PacMan. What happens when Pac-Man and Mrs. Pac-Man get together? There is this one time they made Junior PacMan here. Junior PacMan is actually a good game for the 2600. Pac-Man, not so much. This game is interesting with the scrolling screen. It adds a new layer of challenge. While it may not be so great in Pac-Man, for a new series like Junior Pac-Man, it works just fine. The challenge comes from not knowing where the ghosts are on the other side of the screen. It adds a little bit of a random element. The controls are also good, unlike the controls for the 2600 version of Pac-Man. Junior Pac-Man is one of the best games on the system. Pac-Man could have been as well, but it needed more time. The arcade game scrolled horizontally, but the 2600 version scrolls vertically. This game was underappreciated at the time, so it's nice that as of now it is the official 10th best game on the 2600. This game also came out much later than your average 2600 game. It came out in 1986. Number 9. Asteroids. This classic shooter was ported over to the Atari in 1981. This game is very simple and very difficult. It's a single-screen shooter that loops the screen, top to bottom, and left to right. You pilot the greatest asteroid shooting ship in a known galaxy, the USS Triangle. It has been through 24 asteroid fields and 16 tough calls, but the top-notch crew always pulled through. Then something happened. The captain lost his mind, and the player took over. Now the USS Triangle is doomed to always go through an endless stream of asteroid fields and die over and over again. They would always die and be resurrected, often living multiple lives at the same time as different players at different locations would play the game at the same time of day or night. It's truly hell, and they are doomed to live it until the game is not played anymore, anywhere, for a span of at least 1 year. You play as a little triangle ship shooting at different incoming asteroids. When you hit an asteroid, it breaks apart into smaller rocks, and you have to destroy those as well. The original version is black and white wireframe. The Atari 2600 version is in color. The color version is interesting and a good representation of the arcade original. The black and white wireframe graphics are better. Color games were newish at the time, and it used the new tech, but it all looks so primitive now anyway, so the wireframe version is officially the better look. Number 8. Adventure. Prepare yourselves. You are about to see Skyrim on the Atari 2600. It's adventure. You control a mighty square, and you must find keys and chalices and destroy dragons and be oh so epic. Adventure was the first game of its kind. It has an expanded world that's bigger than a single screen. The game has memory to know if a change was introduced, such as leaving an item in an area. That's why it can get away with having a generic name like Adventure. Before this game, similar types of games are always text adventure games. This took out the text and added more visuals. It's the first action-adventure and fantasy game. Adventure was the first game to include an Easter egg. Easter eggs are little secret bonuses that a developer may include in a game. Warren Robinett was the developer and designer for Adventure. He created a secret room that could only be accessed by doing a sequence of actions and being in the right spot. The secret room had the words, "Created by Warren Robinett," written down for the player to see. The very first game credit. Number 7. Missile Command. Missile Command is so simple and so difficult. You must defend your base from incoming missiles. You control the crosshairs and you must shoot down the missiles before they take out your cities. Released in the arcades in 1980 and ported over to the Atari 2600 in 1981. This is one of the true arcade classics. By today's standards, this barely qualifies as a mini-game, but in 1980 this was the next big thing, and it's fun. The game can't be beat. You will lose eventually. It's actually quite nihilistic in that instead of game over, the end says, the end. Humanity is lost, and in this game, humanity will lose every time. The trick is seeing how long we can last. The message of Missile Command is we are doomed. All hope is lost. When playing the game, none of that really matters. It's a fun little strategic single-screen shooter. The strategy comes in determining which of the missiles to shoot first and where to shoot. You can't shoot the missiles where they are unless they are moving slow. You must shoot where they will be when your attack reaches them. So yeah, we're all gonna die, but let's play Missile Command. It's fun. Number 6. Space Invaders. Space Invaders is a single-screen shooter arcade classic. The top games on the Atari 2600 are often arcade classics. While not as good as their arcade counterparts, they are serviceable home versions. These games are simple, fun, mostly never-ending, and they are played for high-score bragging rights. Space Invaders is very much one of those. Aliens are coming to invade Earth, and it's your job to take Earth's only barely working spaceship and blast all the aliens before they descend on our planet. We do have the advantage of the aliens because they are overly OCD. Instead of swarming and overwhelming us, they move back and forth and descend, allowing themselves to be shot and destroyed by our broken spaceship. The spaceship that only can move left or right, that can't move up or down, that can only shoot slow, methodical one shot at a time. None of this mattered because Space Invaders was the biggest game of all time at that point, and now it's available to play at home. Minds were blown, and Atari was swimming in cash. This single game sold more Ataris than any other game. It was the killer app. It's fun, easy to learn, and difficult to master. Shoot some OCD aliens and just have a good time. Number 5. Pitfall. Pitfall is a fun obstacle course type game. You dodge incoming objects like barrels and bats and swing over pits while collecting treasure. It's a simple game. You have 20 minutes to collect all the treasure. If you can do this, you beat the game. It's not as endless as most 2600 games, but you can still play it over and over if you like. It's the best obstacle course type game on the system. That is, unless you count Pitfall 2. But there's more to that game than just timed obstacle course. The real goal of Pitfall is to get a perfect score of 114,000. That's a perfect run. You need all the treasure. You can't make any mistakes like falling down a hole or hitting a barrel. This game is notable for being the first side-scrolling game. Number 4. Demon Attack. Demon Attack was released in 1982 for the Atari 2600. This is a single-screen shooter where you attack demons. You have been marooned on the icy planet Krybor. This is a demon planet, and you are just you. You do have a laser cannon though, so that's pretty sweet. With this laser cannon, you figure you stand a chance against the incoming demon hordes. The game never ends though, so any hope of victory is lost. But don't tell you that. This game is really pretty fun. At its heart, it's an old-school point-collecting shooter. Starting with the 5th level, the demons split into 2 smaller bird demons that you have to destroy. The demons have an erratic movement, making them difficult to hit sometimes, but that just adds to the game's credit. It is better than Space Invaders, but it came out at the wrong time to make as much of an impact. It's nice to just sit back, relax, and slay some demons for a little while. Number 3. Yars Revenge. Yars Revenge is a very strange little game that just happens to be pretty great. This game was designed by Howard Scott Warshaw, the same guy who made E.T. You are a Yar, a mighty space insect that is at war against the evil Cotil. The Cotil has a barrier that Yar must shoot through in order to get shot at the beast. There's also a neutral zone. No, not the Star Trek one. This is a multicolored line of garbled computer code that is a safe space, where you won't get hit by the Cotil's missiles. You can still get hit by a swirl attack though. The Cotil's missiles can be hard to get away from as it follows you. Once you take down enough of the shield, you have to use your cannon and aim for the Cotil itself. This is another never-ending game, and it's a lot of fun. Number 2. River Raid. River Raid is one of those stay alive as long as you can and get to the high score type of games. The River of No Return is well named. You lose when you crash your ship into the riverbank, or you run out of fuel. The control is very tight, and the gameplay is simple and addictive. The game can go on forever thanks to a unique procedural generation code that keeps the game world the same every time. River Raid was designed by Carol Shaw and released in 1982 to 1984 for all the major systems of the time. The 2600 version is not as good as some of the other systems, but it is still excellent on the 2600, and it's the second best game on the system. Number 1. Pitfall 2. Pitfall 2 was the best game on the Atari 2600. The first Pitfall is the 5th best game, and that game is so simple compared to this one. The first game was a 20-minute mission to collect all the jungle treasure. Pitfall 2 adds a much larger vertical world to explore, swimming sections, and a hot air balloon to float to other locations. Pitfall 2 is notable for having a new chip that allows for better music capabilities, and it shows. The music in this game is some of the best on the system. There is no timer in this game. Activision wanted you to explore this world. You also don't die. You just get sent back to the last checkpoint and lose points. The first Pitfall had 2 layers in ground level and underground. Pitfall 2 has 27 layers, with only the first one being above ground. There are 2 new characters in this game and you need to find them, plus 1 diamond ring to win the game. The characters are Rhonda, Pitfall Harry's niece, and Quick Claw, Harry's pet mountain lion. This game is massive for a 2600 title, and it's beatable. That's always good, you know, being able to beat a game. Not many games of this generation had that, but a few did, like the Pitfall games. Pitfall 2 is the official best game released on the 2600. It looked superior, the music was the best, the beatable game world was very large for the time, and it was very creative. Whether you love or hate the Atari 2600, it does represent the beginnings of the gaming industry, and these were the games gamers were playing 30 to 40 years ago. It's quite a bit different to modern games, and that's what makes it worth taking a look at. These are the games that inspired your favorite titles today.